I guess first of all, just what can you tell us about your excitement about signing Dillon Head and what he brings to the organization now?
Oh, big time, man. You know, he was in our top 15 on the board, and to get a guy like that there, we're hugely excited. Got off the phone with Dillon shortly, and he's already at work, ready to go. So, you know, already on the horn with some of our PD coordinators, talking about his player plan and ready to hit the ground running.
What can you tell us about his skill set? Kind of what kind of player he's going to be, what kind of player he is, and what kind of player he can develop into?
Yeah, you know, everyday center fielder. You know, should steal a ton of bags. You know, he's a 6'3", 60 runner. He makes a lot of contact. You know, I think there's, you know, sneaky juice in there offensively, a guy that goes line to line and works good ABs. So, you know, real excited about his skill set. I think just in the normal scouting of the summer circuit last year, he stood out immediately, you know, with the athleticism, the toughness, consistencies of the at-bats. And our scouting group followed him, you know, for the last couple of years. And I think doing our due diligence in the off season, getting around his training environment, and then obviously following him all spring.
How about the power potential? What's still left to come, do you think, in that regard?
I mean, you never know, but I mean, he's hitting balls over 400 feet right now when he clicks them right. So, you know, there's definitely a chance to have some real juice.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of follow up on that point with AJ. We asked Chris about this a few times, but what can you kind of say about the challenges of this year's draft without having that second and fifth round pick and your confidence and just being able to kind of use those later rounds tomorrow and the next day to get the value?
Yeah, I mean, I think our group we're always really prepared. And I think we've done our homework both on the players and then the draft strategy. So, you know, some years you have more picks and some more dollars to work with. There's good players out there, and you know, we challenge our group all the time to go find them. I think the exercise today, you know, again, like the last, you know, after we made our pick with Dillon, obviously a lot of preparation and planning there and the different possibilities. And right after that, immediately, let's talk about some different things that we can do for day 2 and day 3 and just being prepared from that standpoint. So again, each year is a little bit different challenge. Every year the draft kind of presents, you know, different opportunities and possibilities. And ultimately it's all about the same thing, finding value and finding talent throughout. And our group does a good job with that.
You've drafted a lot of, it's kind of a run now of like kind of high upside high schoolers. A lot of them are kind of fit a profile of up the middle athletes, can kind of project as down the road using that athleticism. What is there to read into that? Is that just those are the guys that are on the board there and that you guys value?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, like there's no like, you know, there's no set formula or anything. I think other than guys that we feel like have a chance to become championship players for the Padres, obviously the last few years, the way the board has fallen and, you know, our scouts doing the work on guys like, you know, Jackson Merrill or James Wood or, you know, CJ Abrams playing in the big leagues, obviously, and Robert Hassel. I think, you know, having some guys that can play up the middle, having guys that have defensive versatility, having guys that have the ability to really impact the game. I think for us with Dillon Head, he does all those things. You know, we see a guy that's going to, you know, we see a guy that can, you know, from an offensive standpoint, his extra base, you know, ability, doubles, triples, home runs. Is, you know, if not the, you know, one of the fastest, if not maybe the fastest player in the draft. It's a real explosive athletic burst and a guy that can impact the game with his legs defensively. So, you know, again, that's one of the things over the last few years that we've seen with some of the players we have in common. But, you know, again, each year is different, each draft's different. And, you know, some of those guys that are doing well in the minor leagues or gotten to the big leagues, Dillon has a lot of similar traits to them.
You've got a group out of the last couple drafts that have made some really nice progress in the minor leagues over the last couple of years. Are you thinking about the specifics of development that you want Head and the other guys who you'll call this week to come into the system with, or are you going to wait and sort of talk that through with your guys as they get an eye on them?
Yeah, I mean, our group does a great job. I think Chris, you know, as a standard, obviously he's, you know, the last few years been really involved on the player development side too. So he has a really good feel for, you know, what that looks like. And he's able to share that with the prospects and the players before the draft, et cetera. So I think Dillon, you know, has a sense of what it's going to look like. We definitely have, you know, are prepared and, you know, already starting the process of, you know, onboarding Dillon and getting him going from that standpoint. You know, that's really what, you know, the next couple of days, obviously we're going to make picks and that's the biggest focus. And then right after that, we go right into our meetings with player development, really just sitting down and, you know, making sure they have all the information, all the background, how many at-bats, how many games, where they're at currently in their process, how we see the players, you know, kind of what we think the challenges are from a development standpoint, and then let our coaches start putting those plans in place. So, again, part of it, you do let the guys go out and play and kind of go from there. But our group does a great job of having some feel about big picture. This is what it looks like, and this is what we need to do from a development standpoint in the short term. And Dillon will follow right along suit with that group and what we've done in the past.
Marty?
AJ and Chris, you gave up a lot at last year's trade deadline to go ahead and acquire Juan Soto. Where do you feel about where this farm system is right now, about the depth that you have?
I think again, I think we've heard it now. I think it's really we've heard it now multiple times in the last 4 or 5 years. I think we heard it after the Snell, Darvish, and Musgrove deals. Maybe after the trade deadline 2020. Definitely last year. I think going into the year, there was a lot of talk about where our system was, and obviously when we got to the deadline, we had the ability to trade for any player in baseball and make a deal like a Juan Soto, and to look up a year later, and I mean every night it feels like there's something exciting happening on the farm, top to bottom. It's I think seeing the progress of guys like, Jackson Wolf and what he's been able to do, obviously seeing, Lesko now get on the mound and pitch, at a rookie ball level, what Ethan, what Salas has done in Elsinore, and then with the Fort Wayne group, Jackson Merrill, having a really, really nice last couple months, and the list goes on and on. I think like we've from a system standpoint, there's a lot of good stories. There's a lot of guys that we like quite a bit. And honestly, I think it's a compliment to our scouts and our coaches, and that's the name of the game. It enables us to make a big deal like Juan Soto. And I don't think that's something we're going to do every year, but I think really a year later to look up at a system that's progressing pretty nicely and has a lot of really good stories and some guys that are going to be impactful players in the major leagues for the Padres. I think just a compliment to our personnel and our scouting group.
And if you don't mind, AJ, with today being the official end of the first half, which is what your thoughts and how your team is performing at the major league level?
I think I think we're looking at it. I think it's been, the last week, Angels, Mets, 2 good series that we ended on. I think that gives everybody a lot of ammunition going into the second half of the season. We understand that it's going to be a heck of a pennant race. There's a lot of really talented teams and quality teams. And, I think what we saw in the last week from an offensive standpoint and pitching standpoint, we're going to need really consistent performances like that, throughout the second half if we're going to get to October. But I said it again, I think everybody here, we like our team, we like our group, and I think what we've seen here in the last these last few games in this homestand, that's the expectation for us going forward, and hopefully able to do that consistently in the second half. I think it's gonna lead to a lot of exciting baseball here in the last couple of months.